So another thing we talked about earlier, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on was to talk about some of the API projects. So you guys have, you've been using Populi for a while, and at different points along the way, you've had a problem that you wanted to solve. Whatever it was that you wanted to do wasn't built into Populi, and so you just were able to use the API and then solve that problem for yourself. I think this is something that a lot of schools, especially schools that don't have their own IT staff or programmers on staff, which a lot of them don't, they don't use the API, or they shy away from it. So I just thought it'd be helpful to share, what you guys have done, and then any lessons you've learned along the way.
Yeah, here's my approach on Populi, right? When I thought about coming on board with Populi, was the idea of, one, I need to figure out what I need to streamline and what should I be doing that is the standard for the, that is industry standard, right? And so there was a lot of things we stopped doing our way, and we just started doing the Populi way, because it was better, it was streamlined, and it was in the one system, right? So anytime you can eliminate silos of information and things like that, do it, please, and stop creating silos of information, right? So the API, being able to tap into the API has been just amazing for us, because there are a few things that I don't think any college does the way we do. For example, attendance, right? Attendance is a thing for us. I think we're probably maybe the last college on the face of the earth that does things like these, right? But we require students to be in class. So attendance is a big deal. And we centralize to one person, the campus pastor in our case. He's the only one that can excuse an attendance, an absence, right? So a student, this is the way it used to work. There was a triplicate carbon copy form that the student would have to fill out for each of the sessions they missed in each of the courses, and then submit that to the central person that would then look at every single one of those, and then depending on whatever the information is on there, and maybe a conversation with the student, excuse or deny that absence request, right? Well, you could just imagine, right? Then one copy would go to the teacher, who would then go change the unexcused absence to excused, if whatever. Another copy would go to the student, and another copy would be kept by the campus pastor. Well, this has now been years since we fixed this, but basically what I did is I had one of my student workers in the library, one of my assistant librarians, who was a student at the time, who had actually a degree. He was from the Netherlands, and he had this, already had a bachelor degree in computer science, and I don't know what else, but he was just a genius. And I got him to write us a little app. And the app had one section for the central person, right? So they had an administrative login, and that administrator then could toggle on and off for each one of those excuses submitted, whether or not they were excused. The student, obviously, nice. The student portal. The student comes in, and it actually looks like they're logging onto Populi, just the way we built it for us. And they get authenticated, with their Populi credentials. They're able to go into their little app and then say, yeah, I need to, request excuse for these absences that I have. They're listed right there. All that through the API. That gets sent over, immediately over to the campus pastor, and then he just takes his time once a day and goes and, switches on or off. As soon as he excuses those get automatically excused in Populi for each instance. So that was one example, what we've done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and it works once in a while when there's an update in Populi or whatever. I may need him to go back in there and make sure that all the connections are still working and whatnot. But it's worked really well for us. Another one we've done in collaboration with another school, which I failed to remember right now which school, but people can contact me if they want this. We did create a way to use our ID cards and scan our ID cards when people are coming through for lunch. And we set up a way to deduct points. And I think it's in the campus life section. We set up a field there where we put a number or assign a number, and then we can start seeing a deduction of points for students using their their meal plan, right? So that's another way we've done that. That was in collaboration with another college that I think they might even have a newer version of that. But they gave us the code for free. I gave it to my guy, and he went in and updated it for us, and we connected it to our API, and it works well for us for what it is now.
Oh, that's great. So that sounds like it's probably a custom field in Campus Life. So you preset it with, let's say, some meal plan. You're going to get 10 passes to the cafeteria. So when they go in, your program is registering the swipe and then submitting that to Populi to deduct one unit from that field.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's really clever. Yeah, and I mean, basically, I think there's a lot of capabilities that a lot of things you can do with the API. So when there's a process in Populi, like for example, with your attendance, essentially what you want is an elaborate review process. But Populi doesn't track each stage of, say, I want it to go through this process and then that process. So, but you can do that outside of Populi, and then your program is just pulling whatever information it needs out of Populi, and then it goes through your review, that gets submitted back to Populi, which then updates the final attendance with this is either excused or it's not excused. It stays absent.
Right.
No, it's great. That's really good.